This right here is one of the 2014 Megatins, and this made a really big difference, and it marked a very important time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because prior to this tin, the tins were smaller, of course, but more importantly, it had basic packs in them and then a couple promos. The promos themselves were the reprints, and I believe there were tended to be anywhere from one in the really early tins up to I think four in the newer ones, one of the cover card and then three super rares. And up until that point, that was pretty much the best way to get your reprints. A lot of really popular cards were reprinted in those tins. Talking about Max C, Solemn Warning, Pot of Duality, Wind Up Zen Mains. All these cards that were very expensive eventually got put into the tins, and it was a good way to get the older packs as well. Now, in 2014, Konami came out with this tin and then another one, and I don't know if you can actually read the back of this too well, but the important part, as it comes apart, but the important part is that this particular pack, or this particular tin, had the packs that were made of Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, Judgment of the Light, Shadow Specters, and Legacy of the Valiant. And there were a lot of good cards in there. Draco Sack was one of them. Number 101, Silent Honor Arc, Exciton Knight, just a ton of really great cards in here. And it basically set the precedent for cards never maintaining their value. Now let me get rid of this. We are now several years after that, up to the Kaiba tin here, which is clearly the better of the two. And I don't know, Yu-Gi-Oh has been weird. Pretty much the biggest difference here is that in the past, you would know that there'd only be a certain number of opportunities for cards to get reprinted. Yes, they could be in like Astral packs, and yes, they could be in the tins, but the tins themselves didn't reprint that many cards, especially as promos. I mean, they reprinted them as putting them in the packs in the tin. But now you can pretty much guarantee that any card you buy is going to lose all of its value in a year or a year and a half, depending on which set you get. And I don't know, it's kind of scary. And I don't know. It's weird because on one hand, it's good for the secondary market. It hopefully keeps things at a lower price. On the other hand, it means that you waste a lot more money and your card value has basically no longevity. So I sort of sympathize with both sides here. As someone who tends to buy the more expensive cards, it definitely thwarts me from buying as much as I probably would. But as someone who also at one time in my life was a budget player, I can understand that it definitely sucks when you can't build the best decks or you're a few cards short from making the deck that you want to build. This year's Megatin is sort of different in that I feel it's probably the worst value they've ever given us. And it's not the tin's fault. The design itself hasn't really changed, and I actually think the Kaiba tin is the better value of the two. But the problem is that the main cards that are being reprinted in here are most likely going to be irrelevant going forward. What I mean by that is that it's not very likely for Zodiacs to not get hit in the next Forbidden Limited list. I don't think Konami likes Zoo and Draco Zoo running around just killing everything. So those reprints don't really matter too much. And Dimensional Barrier is in here as well. Once again, not super important. Cosmic Cyclone is in here too, and that card I believe is getting reprinted in a structure deck. So there's not a lot in here that actually matters. There are some good cards. The Dark Mission cards, I guess, were pretty expensive prior to this being released. Not to mention that Totally Awesome, I think, is my favorite reprint in here. But I thought I would buy one today because I had a gift card at my locals, or my old locals, I should say. And I don't know. I really need the promos out of here. I want Proxy Dragon. Pot of Desires is kind of cool, I guess, even though I have a playset. And I thought I would open them on camera, talk about the value of these cards, and kind of share my thoughts on the direction that the Megatins are going, and if I think it's good for the game, which, by the way, I'm not so sure it is good for the game. Never having any confidence in how much your cards are valued, definitely, at least for me, stops me from buying a lot more cards than I probably would, just because there's no question of the cards losing their value in a year and a half. They do by getting reprinted in here. I think the only card that was popular enough, or the only two cards that were popular enough to not lose like all of their value were Exciton Knight, which stayed around $30, and Solemn Strike, which also stayed around $30. But even then, a $90 card going to $30, it's a pretty big value loss, but whatever. Anyway, let's look at these promos. Now, I might make some people angry with this, but I actually think that this is the best artwork for Blue Eyes. It's my favorite, so I'm really glad this was printed. This actually looks really sick, not gonna lie. I do have a couple of the original LOB ones for this artwork, and I love it. It's really great. So I'm glad that they picked this one and not the same. They keep reprinted the tablet artwork for Blue Eyes, and I don't really like that one very much. Proxy Dragon, obviously the main reason that you would get this in the first place. Probably one of the best Link monsters out right now. Pretty much it's Decode Talker and Mrs. Radiant in every deck. This is now playable in a lot more decks. There was that World Chalice card that did a similar thing, but required monsters with different types and attributes. This one, not so much. Has a good blanket protection effect. Pot of Desires, not played in a ton of stuff, but if you didn't have it, now you do. And I think this would have been one of the more expensive cards in this set, except that it's a promo, so everyone gets one, so it kills the value entirely. I'll be interested to see if there are still a league of casual players that complain about Pot of Desires being bad now that they can afford it. I would assume that a lot of those people that last year were saying it's stupid are now not so angry because they can finally play the card. I have no idea what this does, and I have no intention of reading it. Natis is really good. Is that how you pronounce it? I feel like it is. Natis. Elder Entity Natis. There's a whole bunch of these Elder cards that we don't have yet. This one's pretty good, though. Maybe a little too late, but it's pretty cool, I guess. Then a token card. I'm not a fan of the anime, so I don't really care, but it's kind of neat, I guess. That's it for the promos. I'd say that with this tin, these three are all worth the money. Obviously, the Blue Eyes doesn't matter too much, and I don't really know what this card does, but this is pretty much why you're buying the tin, is for these three cards. And in general, you really shouldn't buy this tin and try to plus, because there's basically no way to do that. There is no chase card in this set, which is very strange. The Zodiacs probably would have been chase cards, especially Barrage, except that we all know they're going to get hit. There's nothing you can pull out of here to make your money back, which I think is a really interesting dynamic. I think the most expensive card was like $8, and we're on like day 2 here, so I think nothing will maintain its value. So don't buy as a China Plus, but I don't know, it's a cool pack opening experience. We have that guy, this thing that I drew on Pictionary one time, Fusion Fright Waltz, never heard of it. Empowerment, this card's actually really good. This guy, people keep telling me to play instead of Brilliant Fusion. Wrecker Panda. My zoo just got a red panda, so I guess I should play this card. This Paleozoic, Opabena, probably one of the better Paleozoics. That's like the one thing that I want to pull from the set, is like totally awesome, so I can play Paleozoics. But that's probably not going to happen. Theseus, the best monster of 2017. It's right here. You guys can see it. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, it's Masterpiece. Wrong Masterpiece. So yeah, you pull the three cards. Like it's not very exciting, but it's kind of cool. If you don't have, I mean, I guess not everyone has Thesis, but no one's gonna play it. This guy, he's a funky guy. Some other random commons, probably not worth it. I don't know if there's any like commons that I've been lacking. I don't know if Snow's in here. That would be like the only good common, probably. Guess the Paleozoics are kind of cool too. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Forge of the True Trickles. Cool. Oh, Perform Pelcelial. The perfect card, Sarah. It's like too high. Not used to the pack opening. Spritz Pressing. Terrible shell card. That card, Metamorphation. Not very good. Dimensional Barrier, kind of neat, but like, is this like one of the better pulls in the set? I don't know. Cosmic Cyclone's like another good card in here. But the problem with D-Barrier is that it doesn't stop links, so I don't think people are even going to be playing it. But I guess it's nice to have a copy. And, Ancient Stone, or Stone of the Ancients. That's another pretty good reprint. Although I don't think this was well, maybe this was the expensive card, because let's see. Sage got reprinted. This was reprinted as a common. It was still pretty pricey. Maybe this is worth something. And some other random stuff. I don't think any of that matter. Hey, Snow is in here. Okay, that's actually a pretty relevant common reprint. I know that people aren't getting this for the common reprints, but Snow is definitely relevant. That card got pretty expensive when Infernoids were a thing. Well, I'm sure all of you knew that. I don't think it was, I mean, it was short printed, but also it's pretty expensive. Ram, that's pretty cool. I guess all the rate stuff is only focus camera. Got those Shino Birds in here. Master of the Eyes of Blue, pretty good card. Magician's Robe. Bug Emergency. Sprite's Blessing again. Lithosagum, okay. That was like the first or second most sold card of this year on TCG Player. It was in, because we do not bi-weekly, we do 2 market watches a week where we talk about which cards are sold the most, and this one had like the #1 spot for like months. It's by far one of the most sold cards. Johnny Mere Force, that's actually a pretty cool reprint. I don't think this card was very expensive, which is sort of like the problem here is that these cards are cool and it's cool having them, but they're not very expensive. So it's like, do you need to buy a tin? But I definitely like that. That's pretty good. Shinobi Solitaire, fantastic card. I think this actually did see a price jump very recently, so it's good that it's reprinted in here for it to be a little more affordable. I've obviously had my playset for a while now. And some random cards. I don't know, miscellaneous sorts, just in case you somehow bought a Dynasty Structure deck and didn't pick it up. Yeah, that's, I mean, what more is there to say? I'd say that out of here, it's like weird because on one hand, these cards aren't super relevant or expensive. On the other hand, we have a lot of playable cards here. Probably, yeah, I mean, like, probably, we'll take Theseus out. As much as I want to say Theseus is playable. We probably pulled these 5 fairly playable, fairly all-seeing competitive success cards. Not to mention the 3 good promos. That's 8 cards that sort of make up the, maybe not the dollar value of this, but definitely the deck building value of this. And in that regard, the old tins basically never would give you this sort of value. You would have to pull broke basically to get this, especially because those sets back in the day didn't have a hollow in every pack. So in terms of how many good cards I pulled, I'd say it's good value, but definitely just buy the singles with this set. That's what I'm trying to say here, is that it's not really worth it. I mean, you can buy like one if you want for like the pack opening experience. And yeah, I pulled some cool cards here, but if you only need like a couple cards from here, like Totally Awesome, or even D-Berry, or even Pot of Desires, just buy the singles. But it was cool. It's cool. And anyway, that'll wrap it about up. I think the Megatins are kind of going downhill. I'd be interested to see if Konami will ever... I mean, I'm sure eventually they'll get rid of the Megatins, and I wonder what will happen then, if people will then buy more cards, because they know the values are going to stay around for a little longer. I don't know. That's just my idea. I'm sure... I mean, these sell like crazy, so I'm sure Konami doesn't really have a lot of reason to keep them, or not keep them around. That's just my thoughts. I'll see you guys later. Bye.